A couple of months ago, I had a client coming here to join me on a coaching retreat for a weekend, like 3 days. And when she arrived, I saw that she felt very uncomfortable. So I asked her, "What's going on?" And she said, "My husband was not really happy that I'm coming here. He normally goes cycling every weekend. And this weekend he couldn't do that because I took the 3 days to come here for my personal growth. And he told me that I was selfish. And I feel very bad because my daughter was crying a little bit and I'm not sure if she will be taken care of like I normally do. And I really don't feel fine. If that resonates to you, if that sounds familiar to you, then you are at the right spot. Stick with us. Hi, my name is Helena de Monk. I'm the host of PowerTalks for Remarkable Females, and I am thrilled to be here with Monica Becker, who is joining us from Canada. Now, with a background as a horticultural engineer, a sales center team lead, a translator, and an IT contractor, Monica eventually found her passion and fulfillment in the field of self healing and transformational coaching and training. As a founder of Clear Directions Coaching, she is now serving her clients as a transformational leadership coach and trainer and a self healing facilitator. She consistently applies bring your whole self to work and life perspective because, just like me, honestly, she's a firm believer that we cannot live satisfying lives if we ignore any part of who we are. Besides being a coach, trainer, and a self healing facilitator, Monica is a 3 times published author, one Amazon bestseller, and an international speaker. Welcome, Monica. It is an honor to be here with you.
Thank you so much, Helena. It's my pleasure to be here with you as well.
Yeah, we are going to talk about the selfishness trap today.
Right.
And this is a topic that is so familiar. I guess you have it in your coaching journeys all the time. I have it in my coaching journeys all the time. I have it myself sometimes, to be honest.
Oh, me
And
too.
yeah, I was so happy that you brought this topic as a topic for today in our Power Talks. And I also want to mention that you are very generous because, and this is something very important also to know for the people tuning in here, stick till the end because there will be some things for you to download that can help you to escape or avoid this selfishness trap. If you are listening live, you are very welcome to join this conversation. We are monitoring the comments. So leave your comments, leave your questions, or whatever you feel that is worth sharing here with us and with the other participants. Just put it in the comments. If you are watching the replay, then put the comments below. Yeah, because we are monitoring and we will get back to you. And if you are not yet connected with us on LinkedIn, do our names are on the screen. Look for us on LinkedIn, connect with us so we can keep you informed about everything that we do, all the events. There's a lot of free events that we organize. And so you are very welcome to join our community of women that want to thrive, that want to self leadership, that see self leadership as a priority. And so we start today with this selfishness trap. So, Monica, introduce this to us. How did you come to this concept?
Well, that's a long story, but I'll keep it short. I
Mm,
was raised in an environment where people were like, I was brought up with a good attitude, good intention, always helping other people. And oftentimes, if not all times, it was that we put other people first, right?
mhm,
And my mom, bless her heart, like I love her dearly, and she's been a great role model for myself. She was really the epitome of that, like always putting other people first to her own detriment, to the level that I felt she was really disrespecting her own needs for quiet time, relaxation, and just mom time, mom by herself. And so being brought up in that environment, and I adored my mom, and I still do, although she has left this physical realm by now, I was influenced by that. And I thought that's how I need to be as well, because I wanted to be like her in some way. And that was just the
mhm.
normal way of being. So
Yeah.
I adopted that kind of an attitude of putting other people first and ignoring my own needs, oftentimes, not always. Luckily, I had a little bit more of good selfishness in me already. However, it also was part of my own journey. So much so that at some point I really started to hurt inside because I was ignoring my own needs and my own desires of living out fully, regardless of what other people were thinking, or
Mhm.
maybe saying no to somebody else because I needed to or I wanted to do something for myself first. And so when I started to open up to that experience of that pain that I felt because I was mostly focused on other pleasing other people first, I then started to more look into my side, into myself, and realized that I was ignoring myself and my true self hugely, and I had
Mhm.
to pay a price for it. Right, I dropped into a crisis, identity crisis 7 years ago, which stopped me in my tracks, and I really had to take a deep look inside myself and connect to my true self again and let go of that pull that I had felt all my life that I needed to be externally focused and pleasing others first. So that's really when I also designed or created that term good selfishness, because I felt and was reassured by voices from some teachers that I started to listen to that selfishness actually in and of itself is not a bad thing.
Mm.
However, the way how we interpret selfishness oftentimes has this very negative connotation to it. And that's why I chose to call it good selfishness, to
Mm.
differentiate it from the selfishness that normally in society is considered as something despicable and something
Mhm.
negative. So that's
Yeah.
where I coined this sense of good selfishness as something where we really honor our own needs first and foremost without being disrespectful to other people and their
Mhm.
needs, right?
Yeah.
But for sure to make sure that we are honoring our own needs and desires and therefore also our gifts and contribution to the world at a much higher level than many of us have been trained or educated and influenced to do.
Yeah. Absolutely. I am sure that many people recognize that. I also recognize it. And it is something that is basically installed in many of us, especially
Hmm.
many of us women, even
Hmm.
during childhood. It is historical, it is cultural, it
In
is
our DNA.
epigenetic, it is in our ancestors' breeding. It is about being raised as to serve, to be nice, not
Hmm.
to be confrontational, and not to be too difficult.
Yes,
And
oh my
that's
goodness.
it. And it is about, of course, we are women and we have these caring qualities that are extremely important, but it's like it
Mhm.
has been flipping to a direction or to a level where it is not sustainable and it is also very unhealthy. And
Right.
we all know that we cannot pour from an empty vessel. This
No.
is some everybody knows this. Everybody who's listening will say yes, of course. And we all heard about when you're in the plane and something happens, you put your mask first and then you help the people around you, because if you faint, you cannot even help the helpless around you. And yet, there's so much guilt, there's so
Mhm.
much feeling people won't like me, people will think I'm a, somebody told me I could pronounce that word also online. People will think I'm a bitch, people will
Mhm.
think egoistic,
Yep.
and people will think I'm aggressive, whatever. I like to combine this concept also with assertiveness.
Mhm.
Assertiveness, where you are not underestimating or not neglecting the needs of others,
Mhm.
and at the same time, you are also showing up for your own needs.
Yeah.
And that is something that's, yeah,
Mhm.
a very difficult thing. It's very simple, but apparently it's very difficult to do for so many
Yeah,
women.
and just picking up on the point that you just made, right, is honoring yourself while also honoring other people. And one of the principles of good selfishness that I wanted to share is that people are equal. Like we are
Mhm.
seeing each other as equal. And that's something that really it sounds simple, but have if you have been brought up in a way that you put other people above you, then the coming to that equal level of acceptance, of respect, starting with yourself and equally with others, it's
Mm.
not an easy thing to do. But from my
Absolutely.
point of view, that's also where, yeah, where a lot of solutions lie in our
Mm.
world in general, right? To
Yeah.
accept each other for who we are and see each other as equals, not better, not worse, but of
Mhm.
equal value.
Exactly. I see Connie is joining us. Welcome, Connie. And she brings a very interesting addition to this. She says, I find some people give and give because they are lonely or looking to be seen and acknowledged. Absolutely. And
Mhm.
unfortunately, many of them expect those they give to to give back in the same way. And the moment we don't, we are seen as selfish, and they can be very mean when we don't meet their expectation of us. Yes, I understand. I understand what you say. And this
And
is about being either manipulated, being drawn into the process of these people. And you probably say that because you have experienced that. And we all have experienced that. Absolutely. And there again, it is about assertiveness. Monica, how would you?
yeah, actually, what just came to me as Connie made the comment, and thanks for being here, Connie. We know each other personally, so it's beautiful to see you here. Thank you. Is you actually described the perfect example of the selfishness trap, right? Because it's this person, your friend or the example, is when we give to others, then, or we expect that others give back to us, but then we are described as being selfish when we don't meet other people's expectation. That's exactly the trap, right? That we have this desire to belong, to be seen, to be acknowledged, but then we bend ourselves backwards in a way to please other people, to fulfill those needs. But by doing that, we're actually not honoring our own truth, right? Because we are, yeah, we are hiding or we are tweaking it, bending it in order to fit in or to be seen, right?
Yeah.
And when we then, as Connie also said, when we are giving to other people from that place of it actually not being a clean giving, but it's a giving with the reason of wanting to be seen and acknowledged. And when we then don't get something back from other people, then we feel disappointed and we call them selfish. There's actually a lot to dismantle in that we can see when we are not giving from a pure heart, but we're giving with a condition. That is then also not honoring the other person, right? Because we are not honoring them or we are not accepting whatever response or reaction they give to us because we are having the condition and the expectation attached that they now need to reciprocate the favor. Although the favor, the giving, was coming from a place of serving myself and not the
Mhm.
other person. Does that make
Exactly.
sense?
Yeah, to me, that absolutely makes sense. And I think a lot of people recognize that. And it can be very confrontational,
Hmm.
especially when we work with pleasers. They
Hmm.
give what they feel they want to give. They do not give what the other person needs. And this is
Hmm.
exactly what we're saying. It is
Yes,
not the clean
exactly.
giving in terms of the needs, it is not the clean giving in terms of also the relationship you have.
Hmm.
Some people give to their children, which is not really giving. It is educating, it is raising, it is taking care, it is taking the
Hmm.
responsibility for your children. And you have those when you put children on the world. And then
Hmm.
still there, you also expect them to give back. And that is again the condition that is not where it should be. So it is
Yes.
sometimes confrontational because we all do that sometimes.
Oh,
But
absolutely.
some people again go very far in that, and we all know those examples, like people, and we then call it like mingling. Some mother-in-laws have that reputation, if that makes sense, like
Mm.
they're everywhere to help to, and they offer their help, and you feel like, okay, I have to push back here.
Yeah.
And at the other side, then on top of that, things are expected from you. So this is a very delicate situation
Hmm.
where again the verbal assertiveness is very important in order to bring this to the table and
Right.
have a conversation about that. Yeah.
Exactly. And it really takes also requires that we have the courage to take a close look at where we are really coming from in
Mm.
our giving or in our interactions with other people. And that is not necessarily easy to do because it can be painful because we might be facing actually the feeling, oh, yeah, I'm actually feeling really lonely. And
Mm.
that's why I'm doing that. Right? So it can be painful to look at that. And in that realization, though, there lies potentially a lot of freedom, right?
Mm.
When we can own that, okay, yes, I feel alone, and I can behave in ways that are aligned with who I truly am. They serve my needs to reach out and create community and not feel lonely. However, it doesn't have to look like conditional giving,
Mm. Yeah,
right? So I think there lies a lot of power in it, even if it's in the moment, it's not necessarily an easy act to do.
absolutely. Also, of course, it is a belief, and we know that we have different kinds of beliefs. It is a belief that you need to give in order to be accepted or in order to belong.
Yeah.
It's
Hmm.
not per definition true.
Hmm.
It depends what you give. You can give love and kindness, you can give presence, you can do things for somebody, you can solve things for somebody. There's so many things, but basically, most of these things are not needed in order to belong to a community. And
Hmm.
if they are needed, I would say look for a different
Yeah.
community because this is not a healthy
Run,
community. Does
run.
that make sense? Yeah.
Yeah, totally. Hmm.
Hmm. Yeah. Wonderful. Where next do you want to take us, Monica?
If you're interested in looking a little bit closer at the definition of good
Hmm.
selfishness, we could go there and look at different
Absolutely.
aspects that I through the lens of which I look at good selfishness.
Yeah, I think it's
Should we
very
go there?
important that we talk about the same thing because if not,
Hmm.
everybody gives a different meaning to this
Exactly.
concept. Yes,
Exactly.
please.
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect. In order to define good selfishness, I think it's important to actually first look at selfishness so that we know what selfishness is actually defined as. And so the definition that I've looked up at different sources is that, and I'm going to just read it so that I get it right. So that selfishness is defined as being concerned excessively or exclusively with oneself, seeking or concentrating on one's own advantage, pleasure, or well being without regard for others.
Mm,
So it's the focus on only oneself and with concentration on one's own advantage, pleasure, or being without regarding others.
mm.
So that's the definition of selfishness.
Yeah, I guess we can agree with that. Absolutely. That
Yeah,
makes totally
yeah.
sense. Yeah. Mm,
So now, good selfishness, from my point of view and the way how I've defined it to date, is making one's own well being and contribution to the world the highest priority while respecting other people and their unique perspectives. So that is still,
can you repeat that, Monica? I
please,
like
yes,
it.
of course. So, good selfishness is making one's own well being and contribution to the world the highest priority while respecting other people and their unique perspectives.
Mm, yeah,
So, we're still
beautiful.
coming from an angle of taking ourselves very seriously and putting ourselves first.
Mm,
However, the flavor that good selfishness brings is that it's coming from a point of healthy self care, healthy self respect, combined with respect for other people.
mm,
So, as I'm honoring my own needs and my own value, and I'm respecting myself and asserting myself, I'm having a regard for other people and their perspectives and what they bring to the table. And I don't need to bend over backwards to please them. No, I'm holding my place for who I am. I'm equal to them. We're looking eye to eye. They're different from me. I'm different from them. And we're both equals. And we're both honoring who we are in our unique ways of being.
yeah. I like that. And I also see another dimension because it also is about the intention why you are focusing on your own being
Hmm.
is because you want to be able to contribute to a better world.
Yes.
So
Hmm.
basically, this is a higher cause. Yeah.
Hmm.
It is about finding the strength and having the power and building the momentum to do something that is really important, not only for yourself, but
Mhm.
for the world or for your community or for your organization or wherever you are
Mhm.
practicing or focusing this on.
Right.
And I really like this additional dimension. Yeah,
And actually,
absolutely.
just maybe a little bit of a tweak there is
Mm,
that our unique gifts may not always be for a better world,
mm,
at least not obviously.
yeah,
Because I think some people, their gift is to be people that rock the boat, that are nasty, seemingly nasty, because they then also are a mirror for us and show us what we don't want.
yeah.
Right? So in a way they are for creating a better or more conscious world, but they're on the surface not necessarily making our world immediately better
Yeah,
as per that definition, right? But
yeah,
that's their truest expression of who they are, and that needs to be equally honored
yeah,
and respected.
yeah, exactly. Sandra has also joined the conversation and she lets us know that she skipped on a person that only wanted to receive instead of giving as well. And as up to this point, she feels liberated without that
Mhm,
person.
mhm.
Yeah,
And that is one act of self-care,
absolutely.
right? To
Yeah,
surround yourself with
absolutely.
people. Sorry, Heather, I spoke over Helen, I spoke over you.
No, please go. Yeah.
Yeah, and Sandra, that's a really good point that you're addressing there, right? Part of or one aspect of good selfishness is actually to is in your relationships, right? That you're choosing to surround yourself with people that respect you as much as you respect them. There's an equal exchange of love and appreciation and of acceptance and support for each other. So it's
Mm,
a healthy act of good selfishness to let go of those people and bless them that no longer resonate with who you are and how you want to live your life and show up in the world.
mm,
So hats
mm.
off to you. Good on you.
Yeah,
That's and that
absolutely.
for other people that might look selfish. Okay,
Mm,
so be it. Yes, it is
yeah,
selfish, but in a good way, in a healthy way, because it honors you and you are responsible for yourself. Nobody else is, but you are. So this is an act of responsibility.
yeah. Absolutely. And also, I know it's an act of courage because it's not
Mhm.
easy to let people go and sometimes also have that conversation with those people. And I do believe it is a very important thing to do.
Yeah.
We evaluate our relationships, and the most important relationship that we see evaluated is our very personal relationships, our
Mhm.
partners, our spouses. And at the same time, we do have friends or acquaintances or whatever level it is that don't serve us because
Mhm.
they are only focused on themselves. And some people will get the reply that they are selfish if they just disconnect. You can disconnect in a friendly way. I
Yeah.
mean, but
Oh,
it takes
absolutely.
courage. It takes
Absolutely.
courage. And to do so is a very, is an act of self love and
It
good
absolutely is.
selflessness.
It
Yeah.
absolutely is. Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I have to say that I evaluate my own relationships every now and then, especially if I feel that something is, sometimes you can feel that the energy is
Mhm.
wrong, and sometimes it's because of something temporary, something that not has not been discussed or has been misinterpreted or whatever. But if
Mhm.
this is like a constant thing and you feel that this is not working anymore,
Right.
then it's a very courageous and self-caring and good
Mhm.
selfishness thing to do,
Yeah,
to have that
exactly.
conversation. Yeah.
Yes,
And to break it.
absolutely.
Mm.
And actually, I'd just like to comment on what you just said and then go to Connie's comment. But since your comment is just fresh, Helen, I'd just like to respond to that or just offer another additional perspective that when we let go of people in that moment or before we do that, a really healthy and good thing would be to also reflect and be not critical, but discerning where we are coming from in this act of letting them go. Because
Mm.
sometimes the letting go can also be in disguise that we are afraid of confrontation or that we are afraid to admit that maybe we had something going on underneath that wasn't quite clean in the relationship.
Mm.
Right. So
Right.
sometimes letting go of a person is not necessarily an honest act of self respect and self care, but it can also be a hidden demonstration of fear, of
Mm.
admitting that maybe we have done something that wasn't quite.
Yeah.
nice or honest with the person, but we don't really
Yeah.
want to admit it. So it's easier to push the person away because we
Mm.
feel like we push
Yeah.
the problem away and the
That's a different
confrontation.
situation, of course. Yeah,
Right.
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm,
Hmm.
absolutely.
So then Connie said that even though moving on can be liberating, it can feel lonely when we are growing as a person. Yes. Yes, it can. I can relate to it. And at the same time, there's two things that I would like to just share from my own experience. Yes, it can feel lonely because all of a sudden there might be fewer people in your life, right? When you do that. And the second thing is that in the end, from my perspective, is that when I, or my experience is that, yes, there might be fewer people in my life. However, the people that remain are more meaningful and more impactful for me and more closer to my heart and to who I
Mm,
am. And also, that person now leaves a space for a new person to come into your life that
exactly.
is a better fit for you. And also, in another, a third thing, in another strange way, the more I get to peace with myself and I recognize that I'm a totally valid and valuable person in and of myself, unattached from other people, doesn't mean that I don't appreciate a compliment. And sometimes I crave for them too. Like I'm not completely healed in that way either. But the more I realize that I'm good and perfect in and of myself, I don't actually crave so much connection anymore in a strange
Mhm.
way. I'm just fine by myself many times. Right, because there is, and that doesn't mean, again, doesn't mean that I'm antisocial. I'm not. I love being around other people. However, I also feel that I'm more content just by myself.
Mhm.
Right, so there actually that feeling of loneliness slowly but steadily seemed to subside for me because
Yeah.
I'm just more filled by the essence of who I truly am.
Yeah.
The more I connect to it.
Yeah. And feeling alone doesn't mean loneliness, or being alone doesn't mean loneliness.
Exactly. Yeah.
It is about also loving your own company.
Mm-hmm.
It's being happy with your energy and with
Mm-hmm.
what you are putting up. It is also about building your own internal reference framework. You
Yes.
don't always need other people in
Mm-hmm.
order to get validation.
Yeah.
Self validation is something that I work on very often with my women
Mm-hmm.
leaders and entrepreneurs clients, in terms of you don't need validation from somebody else.
Oh.
If your
Mm-hmm.
intentions are good and if you have a clear vision and a clear mission, then it is
Mm-hmm.
about self validation. And of course, I don't mean that you need to be self validating all the time. It is amazing to co-create like we are doing today, or
Mm-hmm.
to do things together, or to get supported or sponsored or coached or mentored. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Yet it is not something that we need all the time.
Yeah.
And so I absolutely echo what you're saying, Monica, that we
Mm-hmm.
can do it like that.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
exactly.
Yeah.
And I
Mm.
noticed too, as you said, we can't do it all the time. No, there's long phases where I go pretty happy and satisfied and content by myself. And just like last week, I slid down in such a rabbit hole, right? Where I felt like, oh my goodness, like I need that appreciation from other people and they need to value
Mm.
me. And I felt this urge and this craving for external
Yeah.
validation, right? So once in
Mhm.
a while it hits me too, depending on what gets triggered in me, right? So I'm
Absolutely.
by far not done with that. Right?
Mm.
So I'm still in the process myself. So just
Yeah.
to say that to the audience. So expect for it to go in circles or ups and downs. And it's part of the process of deepening our self-respect.
Absolutely. And there's always discomfort in growth.
Oh my
if
goodness,
if you
yes.
if you have your comfort zone like this, then this is where the magic happens, this is where
Hmm.
growth happens, this is where
Hmm.
it shifts. And there's discomfort and there's not knowing, and being able to embrace the not knowing, being
Hmm.
able to embrace the paradox, that's self leadership. And some days work better than the others.
Yeah,
And yet this
exactly.
is something that I would really invite you to accept as a concept, and to try to practice and to embody. It
Yeah,
is
yeah, exactly.
yeah,
So I
we're not
like just to
core.
Yeah, and just to really bring it back home, like that experience last week, it really reminded me of my need to value myself, right? And to really come and appreciate myself for the things that I'm good at and that I'm coming from good intentions. So that really I felt it physically and really right in my face, right? Like good
Mm.
selfishness. Okay, here you get a chance to practice it. Right? By
Yeah.
really honoring myself for the value that I bring and
Yeah.
telling myself rather than waiting for other people to tell me.
Yeah.
Right? So,
Absolutely. Yeah.
yeah.
Now we've been talking now about this good selfishness in
Hmm.
relationships. We also see it in practices. There's a lot to say. There's a lot being written and said about self-care, which is a very important thing of that. But it is also about going for your self-actualization.
Hmm.
Again, especially as women. I see a lot of women that park their ambitions, that park their ambitions is also a dirty word for many women. They
Hmm.
park their dreams, they park their goals because they feel they're selfish.
Hmm.
And sometimes they're surrounded by family and partners who are putting their foot on the brake because they think that, okay, if she does that, if she goes there, then what about us? Because we can't follow, or we will not feel comfortable with her being that or doing that. Or
Hmm.
maybe we won't have our food on the table in the evening anymore. Crazy things. So also there, this good selfishness is so important. I want to talk about the self-care as such, but I also would like to talk about, Monica, I would like your views only also on good selfishness in terms of our self-actualization as.
For sure. And if you just allow me to quickly answer Connie's question to
Oh
round
yeah.
up that story from last week, because Connie asked, what did I do to get out of that feeling?
Hmm.
So, luckily, I had a very good friend of mine who offered me her perspective, which was very reassuring, right? Because and it's not, it's again, of course, an external voice, but sometimes those external voices, if I'm open to just receiving them for what they are, they can be reassuring, and that's a good feeling, right? So, I don't always have to just find my reassurance in myself. So, it can be helpful to listen to somebody who means well and for that person to offer me their perspective. So I opened up to that and let that sink in, which was a first step that helped me, right? To hear somebody, a good friend's perspective. And then I reflected on it myself and I wrote some things down, just pondered and really realized that this is such a call for me to focus on my inner truth. So the process that I like to do and I have been doing for 5, 6 years now, is one of my self-healing practices. It's called the Dalian method, and I'm quickly going to show it here. So it's a self-healing kit. It's called the Dalian method, which in a nutshell, it's like an antivirus software for human beings because it helps us to discover, to then release and transform those negative thoughts and feelings that each have our own version of them, and sometimes they're the same, that we may have been telling ourselves over and over and over and over in our life, like I'm not good enough, like I'm not qualified, I'm people don't like me, they will disregard me, I'm not valuable, things like that. So I did actually a session by myself, and that helped me to shift that energy because I was
Mm.
able to learn through the experience of having had that pain and releasing it and transforming it in a deeper knowing of that essentially I'm just fine as I am.
Mm.
And that's something I could not have managed just with my mind. I needed to go into my body and let my
Mm.
body give me some guidance as to what I needed to see and what I needed to release. So I was able to release some of that stuck energy, that dependent energy, and that disvaluing energy through that session. So I'm very grateful that I have this tool, and that really helped me to shift that energy.
Mm.
So just to
Beautiful.
respond to Connie's question, and
Yeah.
Connie and I, we can talk separately if you want to learn more about it.
Yeah.
But I quickly wanted to answer that question.
Monica, this information is also on your website
Yes,
about.
there is a
Yes.
link. There is a
Yeah.
link to the website. And because we're just talking about it, a link that I will share with everybody later on, and it's also on the extra web page that I have created. It's actually to another little tool from the same series of tools. It's called Find Answers to Your Questions. And again, rather than coming from our mind, this little tool, it's only 17 minutes long, the session that you'll be guided through, helps us to connect to our body's wisdom, our soul's
Mhm.
wisdom, rather than just coming from our logical mind, because our logical mind oftentimes sends us on a path that we're known, that's safe, but
Yeah,
our body really knows what we need. So there will be a link to this little tool on the webpage
wonderful.
that I've created for everybody and that I'll be sharing at the end of the session.
Wonderful. And if you are watching the replay, then it will
Hmm.
be in the comment below. So go and look
Yes.
there for the links that Monica is so generously offering.
Hmm.
Thank
Yeah.
you so
And
much.
this is, I cannot offer that for free, so we will need to purchase it, but I'll give you the link, and that in itself is a gift because this tool has helped me so many times to find my direction that felt truthful
Mm,
to me in every cell of my body, rather than
yeah,
it just coming from my mind that just wanted to
mm,
keep me safe.
wonderful.
But now I
All
want to
right.
go back to your question. How we
Let's
can
do
use
there.
selfishness in self actualization.
Actualizing. Yes.
Yeah,
Mm,
yeah. So from my point of view, that's the same along the same lines, right? Us following our true calling and what we consider our own gifts is something that is not only valuable or hopefully pleasant and joyful to us, but I am a firm believer that there's also like a friendly responsibility in us doing that by the world needing our unique contribution. And in many cases, people and the women that we're mostly talking to today, maybe you're not even aware of what your unique gifts are. But I dare say that you probably have had something knocking on your door and saying, I want to do this, or I really enjoy that, or I admire this person who is doing something different from me. So maybe there are little nudges that you can follow and explore to see what really resonates with you.
mm,
And then for you to slowly, steadily, step by step, develop the courage to maybe take a little action step towards that, be it the exploration or whatever it may be. Like in the case of your client, like she signed up for a retreat, which in some ways I trust that it will be a stepping stone for her to greater self actualization because she
mm.
will have tapped into her inner knowing, and you will be artfully guiding her on her unique path. So, to do that, to dare to take a stand for what it is that is meaningful and important to you, that's the first step of
Mm,
actualizing your true calling and your true gifts. Right? And
absolutely.
what example is she giving to her daughter? What a great role model
Yeah.
to stand up and to assert herself and to dare to take that step, creating discomfort for the people that are closest to her because she knew there's something bigger at stake
Mm,
and that
yeah.
she is worth that.
Yeah.
So that's a great act of courage. Good on her.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Mhm.
I wonder the audience, do you recognize that? Because I see it so often. And sometimes it is about resourcefulness. Sometimes I see people saying no, or I hear them say no. I recently I was talking about a project with somebody that would be like an amazing co-creator in that project. And she said, no, I cannot be away for a week.
Mm.
And I said, okay. And you could see that she would love to do it. So there was a lot of disappointment in her voice. I cannot be away for a week.
Mhm.
But then, okay,
Limitation. Yeah.
we were not going too deep in for some reasons we were not going too deep into that like in that moment. And a couple of days later, we were talking, and she was telling me about somebody who took exactly the same training that she had, and that this person was knocking on her door. Hey, can we do something together? And she said she could be really be interesting because I like her a lot and I trust her. She could do things together with me or take over sometimes. And I started smiling and I said, "What? Remember what we were talking about a couple of days ago?" And she said, I have to be
Right.
honest, I didn't even think of that. Because it's so logic to say no, because it's no, I cannot do that. This is something
Mm-hmm.
that we very often say. And it is about finding resources. It is
Hmm.
about daring to ask for help. That's also not selfish. Asking for help is
No,
not
not at
selfish.
all. Not at all.
Asking for support, asking for sponsorship so that you
Hmm.
can do what you want to do or what you need to do or what you are called to do, because there's so many possibilities and there's so many resources to help us to make both things happen, because we say no to something and because we want to say yes to something, but we can say yes to that something in different ways.
Right.
But we tend to say no, we cannot do that. Does
Hmm.
that resonate?
Oh, yeah, my goodness. Yeah. And what came up for me as I listened to you talking is that, and from my own experience, that I've done question my worthiness, my deserving of that.
Mm.
Am I even deserving of that kind of support or to go away for a week, right? Things like
Yeah.
that. There's also that sense oftentimes that many of us carry, I would assume, right? That
Mm.
we may feel not deserving of other
Yeah.
people's help and support and maybe something bigger than what we have experienced so far, right?
Mm.
To develop a vision for something bigger can be a scary thing and not necessarily that we're always equipped to step into, right?
Exactly.
So, and that's
What
why it's
what are your
also
tactics to do that, or strategies to show up for yourself? What do you do?
actually, last year I was actually engaging with a coach for a few months, and she helped me to actually break through that ceiling and taught me how to develop a vision by really taking some time out to dare to imagine what it is that I truly would love to experience if there were no restrictions, like no
Hmm.
restrictions financially anyway. There's just a blank canvas. I can paint on it anything I want.
Mm.
And I slowly inched myself into that. Maybe I just wrote one line or two things a day, right? But at least just to create a little bit of a sense of, okay, what else would I really, what else would I love? And I think the first day I didn't write anything because I'd never really thought about that and that bigger concept, right?
Mm.
And here I am in my sixth decade, and I'm finally starting to dream big, but from a place of inside and not dream big by something that everybody, society was infusing. You got to have a family by 30 and two children and whatever. So it's an exercise, but it's an exercise in self-care and self-love that I allowed myself to do that,
Yeah.
right? And really in great detail and great feelings, like with five senses, really to have that experience of what it feels like to be living in that life that I envisioned for myself,
Yeah.
right? And step
Absolutely.
into that ideally every day, which I don't do, I have to be honest, right? But I know now that I can,
Yeah.
right? And it took some time to break through that, right? Of
Yeah.
really opening up to that receiving. Yes, it's there for me too, because I'm alive. And even the fact that I'm alive makes me deserving,
Exactly.
right? I don't have
Absolutely.
to earn it. I don't have to slog and struggle in order
Correct.
to deserve goodness in my
It's your
life.
birthright.
Yes,
Absolutely. Yeah.
yes,
Mm.
exactly.
Yeah.
Right. So that is part of good selfishness as well, to
Mhm.
carve out time where we're sitting with ourselves, connected to what truly drives us, what matters to us. And even if it's right now not realistic or practical to put it into practice right away or to realize it right away, but holding on or creating that vision and
Yeah.
that picture of
Mm.
ourselves and feeling who we are going to be in that,
Exactly.
that's an act of self-care.
Absolutely. It is
Mhm.
about what you're saying, picturing ourselves and who we are going to be, who we are becoming. It is also about identity.
Yes.
And what I also see, and we've all been there, is that we stick to certain roles.
Hmm.
And they're like the evident ones. If you ask somebody, what roles do you have? It's I'm a partner, I'm a parent, I'm a daughter, I'm a
Hmm.
sister, I'm a friend, I'm an executive, or I'm a team leader or a team member. And then they start, yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
And,
Hmm.
and I always say, I can add two already, and that you would never think of. And that is, you are a leader,
Hmm.
whether you want it or not, and
Right.
you are a role model, whether you
Hmm.
want it or not. People are looking at you, people in your organization, your
Right.
children, people in your community, they're looking at you. So
Mhm.
then you are so much more than that, because then when they start to think and they start to write it down and they start to like mind mapping or whatever, they say, oh, but I am so many things. And I say, yes, you are
Mhm.
so many things. Isn't that amazing? And then
Yeah.
oh my God, I've never done. And then it is, of course, the next exercise is like the calibration. Like you cannot be all these things at the same time for a full
Mhm.
100%. And there we go then in again another trap of balance.
Mhm.
I love this balance concept, which is
Right.
actually making us lose from the start, because you can never be in balance.
No, no.
So we're talking about integration and harmony,
Mhm.
and doing the
Mhm.
things in phases and in the right times, and setting priorities, but at least being aware of
Mhm.
what we are, and who we are in all our aspects and facets.
Yeah,
And the most
exactly.
important thing is that you are leading yourself to start with. Yeah.
Yes. Yes, totally.
Everybody is a leader, and nobody
Mhm.
well, many people don't believe that or don't see it like that, but we are leading ourselves through life
Yeah,
in order to
exactly.
thrive.
Oh, yeah, totally. Yeah.
And people are looking at us not to judge us, but also because we are inspirational.
Mhm.
If you radiate that, you
Mhm.
are an inspiration for a lot of other people. You are an encouragement for a lot of other people who say, oh wow, she
Right.
does this, I can learn from this, I want to be like that too.
And
And
we never
oh,
know. We may never
exactly,
know whom we impacted. Yes, but
absolutely,
it's true. Yeah, it's totally true.
absolutely,
Mhm.
yeah. And
Mhm.
so this is my invitation to at least develop that vision, develop your mission, why you are here, how you want to contribute. And that can be in so many levels. We don't need everybody to be Oprah Winfrey, or everybody to be like
Mm,
a CEO of
no.
a big multinational, or we don't
No.
need everybody to be Mother Teresa. There's
Mhm.
so many things that we can be, as long as we are.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, a person can be their fullest self and being a mother of 3 and being at
absolutely.
home.
Who
And
do you believe
somebody's
that?
maybe to be a teacher or to be a professor or to be a
Yeah,
scientist, who knows? It doesn't matter. Like, as
exactly,
long as the person is true to themselves, fully expressing themselves, it's the greatest gift they can give to the world.
absolutely. Yeah,
And there's place for so many different versions of that,
yeah.
obviously, right? Yeah.
Exactly. And it is very clear, I hope, to everybody that there's no selfishness in that
No,
at all.
no, no. Actually, and sometimes it may resonate with some of you if you have been brought up in a culture where responsibility is an important thing. So that's where at what I mentioned before, maybe there is it's a friendly invitation for you to step into your responsibility of adding your unique stamp to the world.
Mm,
Maybe it's a calling, it's your, yeah, your friendly responsibility to
yeah,
contribute in your unique way. And that's can be an invitation. I hope it is an invitation for you to, yeah, to explore a little bit more and make sure that you, in your unique needs and offerings, are contributing
yeah,
to our community. Mhm.
absolutely. And if you struggle to find that vision or to find that mission, then look for help. Look for a coach. Look
Mhm.
for a mentor. Look for somebody who is really supporting and sponsoring you.
Mhm.
I would tend to say, and I know we are two coaches here, but I would tend to say, look for a coach who is professionally trained to be neutrally supporting you, and who has no interest in whatever choice you make.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly. Very good
because
point. Yeah. Because
if
you
you,
may have a girlfriend or somebody that you think, "Oh, yeah, I'll do it with her," and or
yeah,
him, right?
mm,
And they may have a vested interest in keeping you small or in guiding you in a certain direction. So yes, the neutrality of
mm,
a trained person can be super important in that
yeah,
moment. Absolutely. Yeah.
absolutely.
Mhm.
We have less than 10 minutes left, Monica. As I
Mhm.
told you, time flies. So, do you want to go on self care and selfishness, or is there another topic that you feel like might be more relevant for now?
I think health, if we wanted to look at the overall topic of health with regards to self-care, as that falls into it, I think that that probably is the greatest and the foundational aspect of good selfishness is for us to make sure that we're healthy. And not just in a physical way, but of course, our bodies is the vessel and that we walk on earth right now. So taking good care of our physical, but also our mental, emotional, and spiritual health. Because
Mm,
I believe when we are healthy in those areas, that everything else will fall into place,
mhm,
right? If we have a good, healthy body that we can travel in and do the work that we're meant to be doing, if we have a healthy mind, because as much as our mind can be to our detriment because it tries to keep us safe, it's
mm,
also a brilliant tool for us to understand, to learn, to put into practice some of the realizations and insights that we glean when we're also looking into our spiritual health, for example. Establish a connection with something bigger, the bigger energy that's out there, regardless of what you call it, whether you call it God or spirit or universe, Gaia, whatever your name for it may be. Maintaining and growing that connection and realizing that you are part of it all. That's such an essential and foundational aspect of health from my point of view,
mm.
that when you get more into that experience of it, that the rest of your life will just be so much more rich and healthy. And yeah, in a way, yeah, your contribution can come from that place of fullness.
Mm,
And the emotional health, of course, as well,
yeah,
for us to be able to speak up what we're feeling and to actually connect to our feelings, that we even know how we are feeling. So I think that the aspect of health is probably the most important one that I would
yeah,
like to highlight. Health in
mm,
all four aspects.
yeah,
So that can be our strong foundation for living a meaningful life, for being inspiring and inspiring and impactful contributors and role models.
yeah,
And
absolutely.
enjoy it and have joy along the way, because if we're so connected and so healthy, we can't avoid having joy in
Yeah,
all of it.
exactly. Yeah.
Mhm.
And I would like to put a stake in the ground for, especially for mental and emotional and spiritual health, to be very careful where we look to connect with, what we look to connect with, what we are watching, what we are listening to. Because, especially the last couple of years, what I see is that there's so much information and disinformation from everywhere, coming from everywhere, that it is very difficult to find your center and to be balanced and to be focused on what is really important and relevant to you, because there's a, I would call it like an industry of fear creation. There's an
Mhm.
industry of manipulation. It is so difficult to know what is true. It is so difficult to have all the information. It is absolutely impossible to have all the information. If you want to know about a topic and you Google it, you get a million, well, 1 million options. So it is so important to have some trusted persons to turn to that are experts in their niche where you are looking for, but also that you trust yourself.
Mhm.
You develop this inner strength and this inner trust, that you have your inner compass that is based on healthy beliefs, on empowering and growth focused beliefs, and on your values, and that you trust that compass.
Yes.
And with that, you
Mhm.
can find your vision and you can find your mission, and you can really completely embrace your identity and make choices and decisions that are absolutely not selfish, but that are
Mhm.
very intended and connected with who you are. And of course, also with the closest people to you, the people that you dearly love and care for,
Mhm.
because basically it's the only compass that we can use. And it always has been like that. And it
Mhm.
is more and more the need to develop that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mm.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
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 We share some tools.
Yes, we have some minutes. Share your tools, Monica. Absolutely.
Okay, let me do it one at a time. So the first link is leading you to the self-healing Dalian method that I just introduced to the, and the second one is this little find answers tool. And the third one is the web page that I created for all of you, where you can find a tool which is called the Wheel of Good Selfishness. So some of you
I
might be
like that
familiar
one.
with the Wheel of Life, which offers you 8 or 10 areas, depending on which version you get, of life that you get to look at. And the Wheel of Good Selfishness that I've developed invites you to look at 8 areas of your life and to assess yourself in those 8 areas from a level of 0, where you're not good at all in that area, to a level of 10, where you're really mastering that particular area of your life from an angle of good selfishness. And so this tool is available for you for download at the link that Helena will have shared with you.
Yeah.
And there you can download it. And I invite you to go through that exercise with love and with acceptance, not to judge yourself, and
Mhm.
just take a bird's eye view on your life. Which areas are you scoring a little bit lower? Which areas, maybe 1 or 2 areas that could use your loving attention?
Mhm.
So then, and develop maybe one small action step that you can take to improve your self worth and your self care, your good selfishness in that particular area. And of course, if you've got any questions or you'd like some brainstorming, I'd be happy to schedule a call with you as well.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Monica, for your generosity.
You're
And
welcome.
thanks everybody that was here live also to
Hmm.
be with us and to give us your feedback. If you are watching the replays, you will find these links also in the comments just below here. And if you have questions, either you put them in the comments or you address one of us directly. If it is about these tools, of course, go to Monica. She will be the one that is best equipped to work with that. Absolutely. So thank you so much. So I am pretty sure that you have been receiving gold from what we have discussed here and what Monica has brought here. It is so important to be aware about this good selfishness, not to fall into this selfishness trap and to just, I would say, go live your life, thrive. You deserve it. It's your birthright. And one day will not be the other. There's always a next day to take this up again, to have the conversations with yourself and with the people involved, with your stakeholders, and just go for that good selfishness.
Exactly. Exactly. I couldn't have said it better. Thanks for having me, Helena.
Thanks for staying with
Okay.
us. Bye.
Bye bye.